Welcome to a video from thisLifestyle.com. This is another sound tutorial video. I'm doing it on the multi-poly native, but really this applies to any synth. I'm doing it on the native one just so it's easy to show you all the windows and the spectrum analyzer all in the same window. But if it is really, you could be doing this on any analog synthesizer, any digital synthesizer that models analog, so any virtual analog. The reason why I wanted to do this video is because I did a video a couple months ago about filters, and one of the commenters said, can you do a video on resonance? And I don't think they want to know more about resonance. So I thought that's exactly what I'll do. So I can demonstrate with a spectrum analyzer on here and the multi-poly native. But like I said, this could be any of the synths. The multi-poly native particularly is good because we've got loads of different filter models to play with. And that means I can show you the differences as well, which is quite sometimes people ask, what's the difference between all these different filters on the multi-poly and this? I know the monopoly has, the mod wave has the same thing. So this is the differences. Okay, so I've just got a standard Sawtooth wave here to turn the resonance down, open the filter up, and you can play that. And you can see the oscillator there, and you can see the Sawtooth and all its harmonics. Incidentally, if I change this to a sine wave, you can see there's the sine wave without the harmonics. And in fact, if I bring in the other oscillators like the triangle into the square, into the Sawtooth, you can see the harmonics coming in. It's quite a nice way of analysing those. But for now, I'm going to stick with the Sawtooth for now, the analog Sawtooth. So that's with the filter open. If you're familiar with filters, analog filters, I bring that filter down. You can see we lose those harmonics, and we're almost back to where we were with the Sawtooth, with the sine wave. If I flick back to the sine wave again, you can hear the filters just sounds more like volume control because there's less harmonics to filter out. Whereas if I get a rich one like this, you can take it back to that waveform. And of course, this is where the fundamental of analog synthesis, you put an envelope on there and you can start to make some interesting sounds. So you can and deal your sweeps. Then the other thing you've got is resonance. And the question was, what is resonance? And it is an amplifier, a very narrow amplifier. So if we and based on the cutoff frequency. So with the filter right open, it's going to emphasize, some synths actually call it emphasis, the very top end frequency. Let me show you. You can see it pushing it up. And as I reduce the filter cutoff, that push up gets pushed down. So that increase gets pushed down the spectrum. Ooh, and then we get into resonance. I'll talk about that in a minute. The self-resonance, that was. Yeah, you can see we're pushing that emphasis up. So if I go to the filter to the middle there, and you can see I'm pushing that middle band right up until it actually resonates. And if I increase the frequency cutoff filter, you can see it pushing that emphasis up the scale, up the audio range, and back down again. So one of the things I quite often do is get the filter to where I want it to be and then play with the resonance. But sometimes you go the way around. You have the resonance to the level you want, and then you can control the filter to get what the effect you want, maybe that. And incidentally, that whistle you're getting is self-resonance. So it's oscillating so the emphasis is so high, it's feeding back on itself, and you get self-resonance. Like that. And I can adjust the pitch of that by adjusting the cutoff. And if you set the keyboard tracking, we'll have a go at this. I've had mixed success with that. If you set some keyboard tracking, that is so the filter cutoff is affected by the key position, you can actually make that resonance in tune, and you can play it like a sine wave oscillator. And there's a trick that quite a few synths do. Now, some filters have loads of resonance self oscillation, some don't, and they all have different characteristics. this is where the different filter modes on the multi-poly come into effect as well, because you can hear the different characteristics. So there you can see, so as I move up the resonance, the filter cutoff, if I take the resonance down, you'll see that, and as I increase it, you can see it pushing that up. If I change waveforms, if I go to the sine wave, say, you see the resonance won't do huge amounts until we get to about there, and then it adds that extra oscillation into there. And you can kind of almost tune it. There they go, we've got it tuned. Tune it the same one. If I choose a different waveform, let's go with the Sawtooth. You can see it there, that effect I was trying to demonstrate. Really, you can see it pushing that band up there. And if I increase the resonance, the filter cutoff, you'll see it move it up the scale, up here, and then down. So where you want the emphasis is you want the emphasis in the middle, you put the filter in the middle, and so on. Now this is where the filter types make a difference. Here in the multi-poly, we've got the multi-poly filter, the monopoly. We've got a mini Moog one, which instantly you can see the difference. If I start to play with the resonance, like that, I can switch to the Prophet 5 one. You see the difference it makes. On the multi-poly one, you keep the oscillator, you can still hear the oscillator and the I'm sorry, a bit hurting your ears. Let me turn that resonance down slightly. But yeah, you can hear the resonance, the self-resonance, and you can still hear the main oscillator. If I switch to the Prophet one, yeah, the mini Moog one, so the oscillator is less pronounced, and you still hear the resonance self-oscillating. If I switch to the MS-21, yeah, that resonance is almost completely gone, so it's a very different characteristic. But the resonance is still there, it's just in a different way. So you can still have it, but it's a different characteristic. So if I switch that back to the other one, so instantly you can see the different characteristics. Now, the other thing we've got on that's quite important in all this is the trim. Kind of a bit mystified, but that's it when you first come to this type of synth. What is the trim? So what it actually does is backs off the level of the oscillator into the filter, which gives you more space for resonance, more headroom. Let me show you. Let me just get that resonance. There we go, like that. If I reduce the trim down, you can see that the rest of the oscillator is going down, but I can crank up that resonance and it's still got space for the resonance, to the point where you can have just resonance. And if I increase that trim up, you can hear the oscillator and the resonance. So giving that little bit of space, you can really give yourself a bit more room for resonance like that. So that's what the trim's for as well. Incidentally, not part of the filter, but what you can also do great with this synth as well is you can change that drive a bit on the amp. So I can model an MS-20 and bring that drive in, and you can see the effect that has on it as well. I really like the drive, especially in the MS-20 one. I go back to the filter, you can really see without the drive it sounds like that. Bring the drive in, so it has a nice interesting effect. Okay, back to the filter. So you can see there that that's the effect that the filter has, and you've got these different filters. These are low pass filters we've been looking at, so this allows the low throughs, cutting off the high. We've got a high pass filter which does the opposite, allows the high and cuts off the low. So there you can see it's just allowing the high in, but the resonance does the same thing. It emphasizes that frequency. In this case, it emphasizes the lower end. Push it into there, into the middle there, and you're almost into vocal territory. And that is where some synths, some analog, especially analog mono synths, if they were trying to create vocal effects on early 70s synths, you put that on there. You put, if you go onto your, if you do a bit of pitch modulation, then you'll start to hear that vocal type effect. So let me show you. So there I've just put some LFO on there, and you can hear it in effect. So there I've added some LFO, and you've got that sort of 70s vocal sound that they were trying to achieve through analog synthesis, and it's just happens to be that that's the vocal range I think that it comes into. You can also do that with a bandpass filter as well, which is kind of what we're doing now. We're using the high pass to cut off the top end and emphasizing the middle to get us that bandpass. And talking of bandpasses as well, we have got bandpass filters in here. So if I go back to the low pass, you can hear that. If I put the SEM filter, that is the one that modeled on the Oberheim type SEM filters, you can actually put that into bandpass mode. But you can, it's got a bit of a different sound to it as well. But put it to bandpass, and you can see that shape now is more like a bandpass. And put it back into vocal territory as well. And we've also got an actual bandpass as well. We've got a 2-pole bandpass, which you can hear the resonance, what the effect that will have. That's there, you can see it, the peak on it quite nicely. So that's those filter sweeps that are some great sound. The Tom Sawyer sound that's on here, that's got a nice filter sweep using resonance, which we'll have a look at shortly. And of course you've got multi-filters on here as well, so you can actually choose different combination of filters, bandpass to high pass and so on. So all that can be used in combination resonance, as can be the second filter as well. So let me just put this back to the standard monopoly one. Let's reduce that resonance. So there's filter A. We've got 2 filters we can use completely independently, or we can route them one to the other. So you can have parallel mode or serial mode. So this is in serial mode. Parallel mode, you can just, each oscillator can have its own filter if you wanted to, but 2 pairs anyway. But here we can simulate that bandpass by chopping off the high end with a high pass, and then just tweak that till we get the right middle range. Let's put that middle range there. Put emphasis on that and a bit of emphasis on that. Again, you got into that vocal range using that band. That's effectively a bandpass. So other things you can do with resonance. Let's listen to the Tom Sawyer, the default setting. I think this is a default patch, and it's a good indication of how this works. Let me play it first. Actually, it's good. I should have said as well, in the play mode, you actually get to see what the filter looks like, which is actually really handy. So this is exactly what we're seeing here. You can see it sweep down like that. And that's exactly what we're seeing up on the screen there as well. Sorry if you've been shouting at the video saying, put it into play mode. I can see what it looks like. But that's a great example. If we go to edit now, let's have a look at how that was done. It was with the SEM filter, kind of modeling that Oberheim, as I said. You can see that filter cutoff there is being modulated. Let me just bring the screen over a bit. by the envelope, so using an envelope to control that sweep. The filter envelope, like that, so we can change that actually, or we can lengthen it. But it's a great indication that that peak works with the emphasis, with the resonance quite high on there. And I've got it on mod control, looks like 3. You can control that resonance. Instead, if I change the filter on this, you'll hear a completely different sound. Just the different filter models. So it's interesting how that works. Right, the other thing I was going to do is look at the filter tracking. Like I said, I've never had that much success with that, but let's just go to a initialized program. Here we are again. Look. Instead, if we go back to play mode, then you can see. Okay, so what we could do is set the resonance quite high. We're going to the edit mode. I'm just going to turn the cutoff down slightly. There, so there, we're self-oscillating now, so you can hear that. And we can even turn this oscillator off or down now. So now we're only hearing the resonance, which is a nice sine wave. So here's an oscilloscope shot. You can see it's actually a perfect sine wave. And changing the frequency changes the tone. So if I get that to C3, that's C5. There enough. C4. Now, if I bring the oscillator back in, it should be in tune with it. It's a bit hard to hear with the so there we go. So as we go up and down the keyboard, we get the same note because we're not telling the filter to change position. But with the key tracking, set at 60, it should. And we also need to check the keyboard scaling as well. So now here it's not quite right, is it? And I think I'm just missing something. So it's almost there, but that's not too bad, is it? So there you go. So you've got the key tracking in tune. So I could have introduced another oscillator, and I'm going to route this other oscillator to the other filter as well. I think it's probably better, filter B. We'll put the filters in parallel mode, which means they're operating independently. Turn that filter on, and I'll open it up. So that's it. So now we can hear both. So theoretically, it's possible to tune both of these with key tracking and get 2 more oscillators out of the whole thing. I'm not sure it quite works that way, because if I turn this oscillator down for a sec, you can't really hear the Sawtooth now because of doing the drive of the self oscillator. We might get that if we trim it. There we go. With the low pass filter, you can kind of hear it a bit more from the MS-20. That's it. Sounds quite good, actually. just turn that down. So it's a bit out of tune, isn't it? But as soon as you introduce that second oscillator, it just can lock in tune. So it's another technique. It was used on some synths to get like a sine wave when you couldn't get a sine wave out of the synth. You only had the classic sort of waveforms like that. It was another way of doing it. Of course, on the multipolar, you could just pick a sine wave from the digital oscillators. So that's playing about with resonance on the multipolar. So it applies really to any synth. You've got different characteristics of filters, as you've seen, but the multipoly, wave state, mini-log, any of those in a mini-mode will have the exact same thing. Some synths call them Q, some synths call them emphasis. Resonance is the thing that everybody seems to call it now. So if you've got any questions about that, if you've got a better way of doing that keyboard tracking, please let me know. It'd be interesting to hear. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.